If you know my work, you know I love me some mashups. Slamming two or more genres together to create something crispy and crunchy. I love consuming the multi-genre stuff as well. There is some great content out there that slaps it up, flips it, and rubs it down.
Oh no!
Give me space cowboys, singing slashers, or undead superheroes, and I'm all eyes and ears. That's what this episode of Deep Cuts is about. Mashups that should have been dumpster fires, but somehow turned into cult classics and fan favorites.
We'll break down 5 of the best and weirdest genre mashups right after this quick break.
Excellent. There we go. Oh, you're killing it. Doing great. Welcome to Deep Cuts, the bonus episode of the Scott Sigler Slices Fiction Podcast, where a sci-fi author and an audiobook narrator discuss things and stuff in the world of fiction and pop culture. I am Scott Sigler, sci-fi horror author known far and wide as the future Dark Overlord.
And I am A.B. Sigler, audiobook narrator and publisher at Empty Set Entertainment. And tonight, we're talking about genre mashups that shouldn't work, but do.
A reminder, this is a bonus episode in the Scott Sigler Slices podcast feed. It is not part of any particular story. You don't have to listen to this episode to keep up on my current tale, but we hope you will dig this peek behind the storyteller's curtain.
Absolutely. So let's get into it. I'm so excited about this. We are talking about mashups. Of course, you guys already know Scott is a big mashup guy. He does quite a lot of mashup work where he takes either high school and mashes it up with horror or, sort of scientific progress and mashes it up with horror. So we picked a handful. Some will surprise you, a handful of mashups that really are iconic and sort of work and last in pop culture. And we're not going to start with Aliens Earth. If you're watching live, you'll see that on the screen, but we're not going to talk about that first. We are going to start with a handful of really what I think are clever, what we think are clever mashups, and then end with at least 2 that I think everyone will agree that is great sci-fi, great pop culture, and maybe might be surprised that they're actually mashups. I will say I do have a couple of things that I surprised Scott, or that I'm going to surprise Scott with, because this mashup idea is his idea, and if you don't know, I manage a lot of the household items in the house. I do a lot of we have an equitable household, not an equal household. He does not have to do he does not have to split house chores with me because I can't write a Scott Sigler book. He does some, I do most, that sort of thing. So I came up with a few mashups in my part of the USS or PSS empty set, PUV empty set. As soon as you're ready,
got it. Yeah, I'm
back
ready.
to the main.
Let's
we're
go.
going to talk about one. You going to come back
go back to main. Boom.
All right, so now we're back. We're going to talk about one. However,
wait, give it a snap so Steve can edit this shit after the fact.
All right. Before we start to talk about pop culture mashups, I have a few practical mashups that I want to see if perhaps you want to talk about.
Hit me. What do we got? Oh my goodness, my girl got some surprises.
So the first one, I'm not all that excited about.
Oh, no, you did not. No, you did not.
Sorry about all the crackling. This is a Stranger Things Netflix Dorito mashup called Collisions.
Those of you listening to the podcast, she has just busted out a bag of Doritos that somehow she hid from me in her own home. And if you want to see the things we do, you should tune into this vidcast every week at Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/Scott Sigler, Facebook.com/Scott Sigler, and Twitch.tv/Scott Sigler. I'm stuttering and stammering because there's some fucking mashup Doritos about to hit me in the mouth.
All right, so these are Stranger Things Netflix Doritos mashups. It's Stranger Pizza flavored with Cool Ranch flavored.
Okay,
how
all
are we
right,
going to tell
let's
what
go.
they are? It's going to be a little loud while we open this. Give me 1 second. I'll do it under the desk.
Wait. I'll mute you. Go for it. Go, girl. I was unaware that I was going to get snacks. Oh, here we go. Okay. You are live.
There you go. So these are Doritos mashups. They're called Collisions. I do not understand them. I do not understand why you have Cool Ranch Doritos and spicy Doritos in the same thing. I don't know how you tell the difference.
I can. It's mostly the pizza, but the Cool Ranch is in there too. This is incredible.
Wait, are they chips mixed together or are the flavors mixed together?
It's both the
flavors mixed together.
It's both the destined flavors. Stephen Bloomfield in the chat room says, "Do they taste like waffles?" No.
They taste
like
sadness.
Oh my God. They taste like 2-day-old pizza with the microwave broken. So it only heats up for like 12 seconds. So it's like lukewarm, but it's still fucking pizza. It's very good. And then also, like, you sprinkle some Cool Ranch powder on top of it.
That's
fantastic.
These are going to stay in Scott's office for later. No, you got it. They're very loud. You got to put some on the table or something.
All right, sure. All right, I'll have some later.
Yeah. We're going to take these. I say no. He says yes. Doritos, Stranger
Sensational.
Things, Collision.
Sensational. Fantastic. It's great shit. It's really good. Fantastic. Yeah. Tyler Miller in the chat room says, it's pizza and ranch. Pizza and ranch is definitely an Indiana thing. It is a Michigan thing too, for real.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay.
So let's get into this. We are definitely going to talk about mashups in pop culture. The first thing that we are going to start with.
One of the craziest concepts ever. This should have been a fucking disaster. This should have been Kurt Russell in Escape from New York, except he gets killed on the island because no one needs to see Snake Plissken get back into Indiana area. It should have been nothing. And yet we have Sweeney Todd.
Sweeney Todd.
A murder musical? Would you call it that?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
A psycho killer musical? Okay. So musicals are supposed to lift your heart. Horror is supposed to rip it right out of your chest. So who thought, hey, what if we had a barbershop bloodbath set to music? Ladies and gentlemen, Sweeney Todd.
Okay, let us talk about why this combo worked so well, weird though it is. Sweeney Todd, subtitled The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, is a musical that ran on Broadway, that debuted on Broadway in 1979. It is a Sondheim musical. It's a Stephen Sondheim musical. If you don't know what that means, Sondheim is to musical theater. If you are familiar with Andrew Lloyd Webber, and that works for you. If you're familiar with Lin-Manuel Miranda, and that works for you, as somebody who loves, who is musical theater, back in the day, back in the 70s, that was Stephen Sondheim. The music and lyrics, both written by Stephen Sondheim, the book itself written by Hugh Wheeler, and it was loosely based on the 1864 Penny Dreadful, The String of Pearls. Now, this is important because The String of Pearls did okay as a Penny Dreadful. Remember, back in 1864, there wasn't a lot on TV. There wasn't a lot.
There wasn't a TV.
Right. There wasn't anything on the TV. There wasn't a lot on the radio. There wasn't a lot in your town that was entertaining. So to see something so incredibly splashy in a Penny Dreadful, so something so incredibly splashy as The String of Pearls would have motivated, and it would have been memorable. So then you fast forward to the 1970s and it becomes a musical. Okay. Crazy, but you go to a musical and you think, oh, this is fine. There are so many musicals that are about tragic, terrible things. There's one called Picnic that's about a lynching. What? But it's true, because this is how you sort of got and absorbed not news, but the facts of life, I guess, or the reality of the life that you're living.
You got to get them right.
In a time before movies, TV, cell phone in your hand, all that jazz.
Yep.
So Sweeney Todd comes out in 1979. Angela Lansbury, who all of us know and love as Jessica Fletcher, was
there she is.
the female lead character. And then she comes back. So it opens in 1979. I don't think it opens on Broadway. I think it opens in the West End. And then in 1980, she comes back again and she reprises her role.
Okay.
So I love this.
Awesome.
If you haven't seen it, you have seen this.
Angela Lansbury led a life of murder. Everything she did was related to murder. Keep in mind, if you've seen
Sweeney Todd.
No, well, also
And Murder,
She Wrote. If you have, you guys, I tell you what, we all saw Angela Lansbury in Murder, She Wrote, Sweeney Todd. You guys got to look up, you hetero-leaning people, or, bi-leaning people, whatever you are, look up Angela Lansbury. Just Google
people.
And just Google Angela Lansbury back in the day. that was a very, very attractive person.
So one of the things that actually carries this story throughout, and we're going to see again and again tonight, is these characters are larger than life. They are dramatic. They would be dramatic if you knew them in your real life. They're dramatic when you see them on stage. They are sort of gothic terror meets soap opera style drama.
And most of you probably have heard the concept of Sweeney Todd because of the Johnny Depp movie. And Johnny Depp did a great job in this movie. So this is an opera, a musical mashed up with a murder, what do you call it? A serial killer musical.
Yeah.
Is a period piece serial killer musical. There's 3 genres mashed up into one. That becomes a huge Broadway success that eventually becomes a movie with Johnny Depp, and it's very, very, very interesting. Probably one of Johnny Depp's best roles, and there's a lot of razors in it, and this is the reason I will never go to a barber and get a straight razor shave, not one time ever.
Okay.
Never, 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 never.
Okay. You guys. Scott actually means that with every fiber of his being. He has a very proscribed facial hair choice, and I thought a straight razor would be hey, put us back on the camera so everybody can see your very proscribed facial hair. Would be nice to have a straight razor. He wouldn't allow it for ever and ever and ever. And then he finally did allow it, but I am legitimately not allowed to touch it in any
Nobody
way, shape,
touched straight
or form.
razor.
No one touches his straight
I'm
razor
actually,
but him.
I'm a little bit disturbed that the straight razor is even in the house. So some other mashups that are in the same area, Repo, the genetic opera, which is sci-fi, musical, and horror.
Quite a lot of people are talking about in the chat room are talking about Little Shop of Horrors correctly.
Yep.
This is comedy meets horror meets musical. Absolutely there. I do think Little Shop of Horrors, the comedy helps. It's sort of a spoonful of sugar, helps the story go down a little bit better these days.
And
Sweeney
then
Todd is a little bit harsh.
A little bit harsh. And then there is the Meet You in the Middle bit, which of course, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Camp, sci-fi, musical, and horror. There's a lot of genres that go into the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So that gets us to, let's be honest, it's time to move on. It's time to move on to one of the seminal works of Western culture, perhaps the 3rd or 4th best of all time. A concept that was sold in a pitch in a room, and that pitch was, it's Jaws in space. And the studio opened up a checkbook and wrote a big check, and they got to work. And that movie is, of course, Alien.
Oh, Alien.
Alien, a lot of people think Alien is sci-fi horror. I posit it's not horror, it's a subset of horror. Alien came out, I believe, in 1978. It's 1979, at the height of the slasher genre. In 1979 through the 80s, Friday the 13th, Freddy Krueger, Halloween. There were so many slasher properties cooking. Alien is a slasher sci-fi movie. Why is it a slasher movie? Because it is absolutely a last man standing or final girl. Alien has literally a final girl, just like Jamie Lee Curtis, just like those movies.
You often say existential horror in the emptiness of space is the mindfuck.
Mm-hmm.
This idea that you already feel isolated and alone. And then inside this ship with just a very few people, you feel even more isolated and alone. It's an interesting thing because, of course, movies are supposed to hold up a mirror to us and let us experience things that we can't experience in our own life, like loneliness or isolation or fear or suspense, and do it in a way that lets us have an emotional release without actually having to do that in our actual life. And when I watched Alien, I just collected a whole bunch of new existential fears for my life that I had not thought about before, but still carry with me to this day. Ooh.
Alien was so gory, and it was it's a slash film. The slasher just happens to be E.T. the Extraterrestrial on steroids and also strung out on H chasing the dragon. That's what Alien is. And it is a very, very weird. So it mixes suspense, fear of the unknown, but hey, why does this mashup work?
Well, I want to tell you a little bit about it. It was written by Dan Bannon. Put it down, please.
Sorry, okay.
Jesus. Before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit about it. It is a 1979 classic film that combines jump scare horror, existential terror. Sorry. Alien is a 1979 classic film that combines jump scare horror, existential terror, and a genre-changing beastie. It was written by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett, and then Dan O'Bannon went to Ridley Scott and wrote the screenplay. And I think that is so important, that the visual and the director, the visual producer and the director is in on the screenplay writing, I think is so important for this movie. It, of course, was directed by Ridley Scott, and it stars Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley and a host of other, at the moment, wildly famous people, including John Hurt, Tom Skerritt, Harry Dean Stanton, and the most important one, Ian Holm as Ash. I think that the fear of the unknown, the genre breaking, these are the things that made it special back in the day, I think.
It was, nobody had seen anything quite like it, except the point of this podcast is they absolutely had seen things quite like it, because it's a slasher film. The cast gets killed one by one. It's a survival concept. There's a serial killer aboard the Nostromo. It just happens to be what? An alien.
Yeah.
But it's still a serial killer. All right.
And I do love that the tagline was, in deep space, nobody can hear you scream. But also, Alien really does, to this day, bring the idea home that every man truly dies alone. You, at the end of your life, you're alone with your thoughts, you're alone with your decisions, you're alone with your morality. And that movie, for me, really showed me that, like, at that moment, the only person who matters is you. Even in this case with Ian Holm's character, Ash, the only person that mattered, quote unquote, person was him.
Similar slasher sci-fi mashups. And again, horror, slasher is a subgenre of horror, but similar concepts. The Thing.
Oh, for sure.
Another, and both the original and the Kurt Russell reboot. I disown the things out of the Kurt Russell reboot, but those are slasher plus isolation. Pitch Black, which is creature feature plus horror, not really so much with the slasher concept, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is slasher disrupting an otherwise normal day.
Yeah,
so that's
absolutely.
a little bit weird. That's a little bit weird.
But Alien is such a genre-breaking film, and also a benchmark moment that I think that's okay. I do have to say, it is time for a quick break.
Okay.
If you guys listening have a minute and can listen to any ads that pop up, there are only one or two, and it really helps the show. And we'll be back right after this.
Good job.
Ready?
Yep. Oops. There we go. Good. Do this. Get fancy. You guys at home, see how the sausage is made. Here we go. Welcome back to Deep Cuts.
This episode, we're talking about genre mashups that shouldn't work, but do.
Speaking of that, superheroes are supposed to save the day. Zombies are supposed to eat the day. So who thought, hey, what if Earth's mightiest heroes started craving brains instead of justice? You get Marvel Zombies.
Okay, Marvel Zombies is a 2025 animated miniseries on Disney Plus that is adapting long-running Marvel comic storylines. The head writer here is Zeb Wells. It's directed by Brian Andrews, and it's starring Iman Vellani as the voice of Kamala Khan, who's also Miss Marvel. The show turns beloved heroes into terrifying monsters while still keeping Marvel's sense of spectacle. How does that work as a writer?
They also, of course, did this in print. There was a series, there were graphic novels. And as a writer, what it does is it's subverting the invincible superhero trope by making the superhero both vulnerable and horrifying at the same time. So they really were able to dip. There's only so much you can do with a superhero story. Frankly, there's only so much you can do. You get a couple of groundbreaking things like The Dark Knight. You get, Spawn. You get a lot of things where you're like, holy crap, they did something new with this genre. But they were able to bring horror into it, and the tension is amplified because the monsters still have their superpowers.
This is so interesting because I do think that we've also seen this from the other side, which is not exactly a horror suspense mashup, but worth noting, which is Homelander. What is that series? The Boys.
The Boys, yeah.
The Boys also subvert the genre and in an interesting, thoughtful way, I think. I do think that the tension is really, really amplified because it's one thing to realize that somebody is more powerful than you.
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing to realize they're powerful and at odds with you. And I think a lot of people see that often in their life in a million different ways. They see, oh, well, I don't like you and you don't like me, or you don't like me because I, love tuna fish or whatever it is. And I bring it every day and I heat it up in the microwave. And so you hate me. That's one thing. You hate working with me. If it becomes, I actually hate you and I love that you're working with me because I'm going to ruin every single one of your days. I think that happens a lot. And we see that we may see that in Marvel Zombies, but we absolutely don't see that in The Boys for The Boys, but we see that for the other people.
Similar superhero plus horror mashups, Brightburn, superhero and horror, Injustice, superheroes, dystopian horror, and of course, what A just mentioned, one of my personal favorites.
Yeah.
The Boys, superheroes, plus satire, plus some really, really prescient social commentary. If you've already watched The Boys, watch it again from the concept of like how much it has sort of seen where we are and where we are going. And I'm really, frankly, pretty impressed. When you look at where we are today, and this day would be October 1st, 2025, you back watch The Boys from 4 or 5 years ago, pretty goddamn impressive. But babe, that's going to lead us to another mashup, one of my favorite mashups of all time.
I don't have that. I do not have it.
There's Marvel Zombies.
I cannot hint.
From dusk till dawn. Ladies and gentlemen, crime thrillers thrive on grit, sweat, and getaway cars. Vampire flicks revel in fangs, blood, and midnight mayhem. So who is the douchebag who thought, let's slam them together and see what happens? We'll figure out who that was in a second. But what you get is From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, you guys, From Dusk Till Dawn. From Dusk Till Dawn, you guys. It is a 1996 film that begins as a crime thriller before swerving wildly into horror. It is written by director, producer, superkind, Quentin Tarantino.
Mm-hmm.
Love him to death.
Mm-hmm.
It is directed, my favorite about this, it is directed by Robert Rodriguez. Robert Rodriguez is El Mariachi, Desperado, Spy Kids. Robert Rodriguez is a director's director, and Quentin Tarantino is a scriptwriter. And sometimes it goes poorly for both of them, but when they came together, Quentin writing the script, Robert reining him in, and then they got George Clooney right before he escalated to wildly superstardom. Nobody can touch him in Ocean's 11 and whatnot. As Seth Gecko, who drives the entire movie.
I'm not going to lie to you guys. George Clooney's body of work is quite impressive.
Mm-hmm. Also that neck tattoo.
Without a doubt, George Clooney's single best role, and I will fight any one of you on this, was absolutely fucking From Dusk Till Dawn. Because he was in ER? Was that what he is? That when he came up as a doctor?
From ER. Yeah, I think so. Chicago Hope, maybe?
He comes, whatever the fuck. He was a goddamn soft, sensitive doctor struggling with all the drama that comes with being a doctor. And oh my gosh, I'm also good looking and I'm banging a couple of doctors and a couple of nurses, but then this kid dies of cancer. How do I save these kids? And I did not fucking like this dude. I was like, whatever, bro. I don't want your goddamn fucking show. And then he does From fucking Dusk Till Dawn. And I was like, that is a badass motherfucker. Just a badass.
I need you to go back a little bit to the movie poster From Dusk Till Dawn just for 1 second. There we go. My favorite thing about this, and I am being absolutely genuine, you guys. Hang with me because it's going to sound like I'm joking. I'm not. I love this because this poster is exactly what we needed to see. One night, where every all one night to make or break everything. That's written on the poster.
Mm-hmm.
The director, the writer, written on the poster. From Dusk Till Dawn, the title. Also, a beautiful shot of George Clooney. And absolutely, George Clooney in this movie, his brother is played by Quentin Tarantino. And Quentin Tarantino is a writer-director who puts himself in every movie he's in. That's one of his things. And I love that this is the moment that he gets to be on the poster, because this character, the other Gecko brother, is flawed, I'll say.
Yes.
And his brother Seth, who is played by George Clooney, adores him. And I love that this is the one where he gets to be on the poster.
The movie plays like two completely different films, duct taped together. You got your tense crime drama that suddenly explodes into sort of a ridiculous vampire splatterfest, where, frankly, let's be honest, a lot of vampires mill around the edge of the room instead of bum rushing all of these people. And we also get Salma Hayek.
But before we talk about that, I do want to talk about why it works that they play like two completely different films. One of them is that the U-turn sort of shocks the audience. Like, it happens. If you're unfamiliar, spoiler alert, they are headed to a destination, and they happen on the place that they're going right at dusk. So there's a big U-turn that shocks the audience and keeps them riveted, because the movie sort of splits in two. There are ruthless criminals that instantly become unlikely underdogs once actual, real monsters to human beings show up.
And the grindhouse style, of which Tarantino was a huge fan, switches the two halves into one wild ride instead of, it should be a total train wreck. You're like, hey, we're a crime thriller. It's gritty. We're shooting guns and robbing stuff. It's wild. Then all of a sudden, hey, we're in a fucking vampire film. This should have been a train wreck.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you other similar mashups for crime and horror that work. But before we do, right on the screen right now is the absolutely luminous Salma Hayek, who took this role before she was wildly Salma Hayek. She was on her way, but this is such a perfect thing. There's so many things about this. She desperately wanted to work with these people. She wanted to work with Tarantino. She wanted to work with Robert Rodriguez. She had worked with Robert Rodriguez before and continues to work with Robert Rodriguez. She feels like he gets her as a director. But I love this because to do this, she had to take this particular role and is to this day
terrified of snakes.
Terrified of snakes. And they were like, yeah, I still got to do it. And she was like, all right. I love that she got to meet that snake beforehand. And I can't remember right now, but that snake's name is something like Petunia or Buttercup or Pickles or Cupcake. It's something very innocent. And that kind of helped her.
I don't give a crap which way your flag whips in the wind. If you are a fan of seductive females in any way, shape, or form, Salma Hayek, her walk down the street in Desperado is absolutely legendary. But her gosh darn dance in Dusk Till Dawn was a record skip in my brain. And I think they did such a good job in this movie because in the movie, she comes out with that snake and Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez got it. The entire bar full of evil ne'er-do-wells and tough guys hard as gristle and barbed wire, food processed together into sausage. There's a record skip through the entire friggin' movie. It's amazing.
Record skip is the perfect way to say that because I think it's an intentional moment that switches everybody's brains right there. And I think that Rodriguez did that so well. You're like, all right, I'm processing all this new info. You see a moment, spoiler alert, there are vampires. You see a moment where the bar locks the door with big, broad, like tree falling kind of blocks the door kind of thing. There's so much comic relief. Cheech Marin shows up as comic relief
He's
throughout.
incredible. Yeah.
But that moment, that snake moment with Salma Hayek switches it. And I do think as an audience member, you're like, okay. And you're ready for whatever's next. And I think that is such an important moment. A lot of times when we're having a genre switching kind of a iconic moment, that really helps.
And for Chris Grohl in the chat room, we have to bring up the
Alfred Molina, my favorite.
the crotch gun And that's Tom. That's Tom. That's Tom.
Oh, that's Tom Savini. Sorry, Tom Savini. Yes,
one of the great special effects guys of all time.
Such a lovely human.
They gave him a part in the movie, and he has a
good news. He made that gun.
He has a 6-shooter that pops up and is somewhat reminiscent of a human penis,
and it shoots up from his codpiece.
His codpiece. So a couple other movies that have the same gestalt: Planet Terror, which is crime, horror, and grindhouse; From Hell, which is crime, horror, and mystery; and Dust Devil, thriller plus supernatural horror. And now we head into our final
choice.
We're heading into our final choice.
But before we do, I have one more.
You got a surprise for me? Okay. Snack mashup. Shit, I know there's snack mashups.
If you guys are listening, we are going over things in pop culture, movies, and TV that are mashups that work for horror and slasher. But I got a couple of food matchups, smash-ups, whatever they are. And this one, I think, is going to go well.
Oh,
this
fuck me.
Can we go back to that?
Fuck me. Let's go, bitches. On the screen.
Reese's and Oreo.
So you guys.
I feel like this is a
Oh, my
no-brainer.
gosh. Okay, listen.
He's going to take over.
I'm going to take over. First of all, if you're listening at home, what we have on the screen right now is a Reese's Oreo mashup. These are two of the best things that mankind has ever invented. There is the written word, the wheel, domesticated dogs, and then in rounding out the top 10 somewhere are Reese's and Oreos. Oreos are so good. My wife is not allowed to buy them. We can't have them in the house because I will eat them all in one sitting.
Even so much. Today, I went out looking for mashups. I found those Doritos and I found these. And I also found Selena Gomez Oreos, which sounded delicious. They were like
I'm not sure I want to taste Oreos that taste like Selena Gomez.
But they don't. That's her favorite. And it was like Nutella with a little dusting of chili powder or something. It was so good. Dude. And I was like, I cannot have an entire thing of them in my house. I just have to have the two.
So what we have here is these are
Reese's
peanut butter
Oreo
cups
mashup.
with looks like Oreo tops. Let's go to main here. We got Oreo tops. Yeah. And in here, now these aren't crunchy, so I can eat these on the camera.
Yeah, they're white chocolate on the outside. And peanut, I don't really know what's going on.
Thank God for science. Thank God for preservatives. Thank God for the food industry in America that gives us these incredibly delicious treats that keep us overweight and fat. I don't give a goddamn. I don't give a goddamn because this is delicious. This is delicious. Chris Gall in the chat room says, I will destroy a package of Oreo double stuffs. I'll work at that package like a job. Chris, I not only take the double stuffs, I take one top off of each, put them together, so I get a quadruple stuffed. I get a quadruple stuffed, and give me a gallon of milk and a whole sleeve of double stuff. I will eat them all, and I will complain. I will complain after, and I will say I should have been more disciplined, and I'll wake up the next day plus 6 pounds. But you know what? I'm going to eat them all immediately right there. All right. You ready to move in? That was great, babe. Thank you. It was a delightful treat. You ready to move into the final?
I think so. I am not as big a fan of the Oreo Reese's. They're a little artificially.
Oh, my God. You're so wrong. Possibly the most significant mashup of all time based on fandom, based on temporary viewership, based on a lot of things. Firefly, the absolute classic. The Western gave us Dusty Towns, poker games, and outlaws living by their own goddamn rules. Sci-fi gives us warp drives, laser cannons, and vast galactic empires. Put them together, and suddenly you got gunslingers riding starships instead of horses, and that is Firefly and its movie sequel, Serenity.
All right. So Firefly is a TV series from 2002 that fused space opera with Western grit, later continued in the 2005 movie Serenity. It was written and created by Joss Whedon, directed, of course, by Joss Whedon, who also did Serenity. It starred Nathan Fillion as Captain Malcolm Reynolds. Mm-hmm. The series takes the frontier myth of the American West and reimagines it as humanity's expansion across the stars.
Now, of course, this isn't the only space Western. And this mashup works because the lawlessness of space really feels a lot like the lawlessness of the old frontier. And I, as a creator, I have a space western called The Sheriff, which I haven't written yet because they're really the same thing. The idea of sci-fi in space is the isolation, the distance. You're not completely cut off. It's just going to take a really long time for your message to get from point A to point B and for anybody from point B to ride to your rescue in point A, right? This is exactly the same thing as a Western. They are the same thing to start with. So I would call it lowbrow sci-fi, which is more reliant upon the distance and the characters, is basically a Western.
But I do want to ask this because there are aesthetics that go with every movie. You know what a Western looks like. You know what a sci-fi, you know all of that, right?
If I didn't have a mouthful of Oreo Reese spinner, I can make that whistle. I make that whistle all the time.
I can't really whistle, so that was the best I could do. But like for this, can you go back to the script, please? So for this, those aesthetics, the slang, the long guns, the long coats, the 6-shooters, all of that absolutely translated to a starship setting. But because you smash up a lot of things, I want to ask about the Chinese language. One of the things that happens in Firefly and Serenity is the language that commuted to the future was Mandarin Chinese, but we are hearing it in English because, of course, we speak English right now. And I want to ask, that particular conceit was a little bit weird for me, and I want to ask you as a creator about it.
Well, in the late 90s, probably through the 2010s, there was this gestalt in sci-fi, which was like, China is up and coming. There are a billion, the first country of the billion people was China, right? India was close behind, but China, huge. And as Japan's influence on the action adventure genre was dominant, China was slowly chugging along. And in sci-fi, which is sometimes more substance than style, there was this logical mathematician analysis, which is like, this is the largest population on the planet. This is a population and a government that is investing heavily in technology, very forward thinking, and planning in decades, half centuries, and centuries. Western culture plans in months and years. China, of course, being much older, 2,000 years old civilization, thinks about things in epochs and millennia. So in sci-fi, it was common sense at the time that when we get to space, the language everybody speaks is going to be not English, but Chinese. It made a lot of sense, and that is largely why they did that.
I absolutely agree with you. And the other thing is that they actually played in by saying, okay, the most likely major language in the future might be Chinese or Mandarin Chinese. They also played into this idea of found family, that if you are on this crew of the Firefly in space and you don't know when you're going back home to wherever you're home and you're part of this ragtag crew, is that found family makes it resonate on a human level, no matter what the trappings of that is, no matter what the language is, no matter what the genre is, all of that. And I think they did that really, really well.
In the chat room, Steve Bloomfield says, Scott, I thought The Reef was a Western. The Reef is a book that I wrote. It is in the Galactic Football League series. And The Reef is absolutely a Western. The Reef is a sequel to Title Fight. They're both novellas within the Galactic Football League series. And if you guys listen to this, haven't picked it up, you have someone to start with book 1, The Rookie. Go to scottsigler.com/The Rookie, one word. Check it out, because by the time you get to The Reef, there's literally a stranger in town who winds up as the space marshal and has to chase down the crooks. The Reef is my Western until I get to the point where I can write The Sheriff. But yes.
Now, speaking, as we've been doing this whole time, about similar sci-fi / mashups that happen, for this one, I would suggest The Mandalorian, which is sci-fi plus the Western plus the samurai violence aesthetic.
Oh, it's so great, dude.
Cowboys and Aliens, which is sci-fi and Western. It's different but similar and easy to watch.
And weird.
And you would love it. And Outer Range, which is sort of neo-Western and sci-fi mystery and sort of fits into this genre.
As we finish up, on the screen, we have possibly one of the greatest gifts of all time.
One of the greatest gifts
which is Mal trying to find a thing to say, which has been used. I would say this might be one of the most popular gifts ever. It's used constantly because it communicates things so well. Nathan Fillion does a great job.
This and the Kermit flail.
The
Malcolm Reynolds equivocating and the Kermit flail I use to distraction.
Chris Grawl in the chat room says, the reef is fantastic. I appreciate that. D79 absolutely points out Joe Abercrombie's Red Country is straight up Western novel. It is fantastic. Of course, Joe Abercrombie, one of my favorite writers in the world. Go find anything by Joe Abercrombie. You're going to be happy. That is it for this episode of Deep Cuts.
Next week, we will chat about our inability to be cool when meeting our creative heroes. You don't want to miss this. We're both idiots.
We're dorks, and we freely admit we are geeks, nerds, and dorks. But when it comes to meeting us, okay, listen, I got a little bit of jock on me. You know what jock on me. I got a little bit of jock going on too. I've wrestled, played football, done all the sport. I do the sports things. I know all the sports. I'm absolutely a nerd / jock, except when it comes to meeting famous people I like a lot, at which point I become a silly mouth-breathing idiot. A and I are going to talk...
I disagree. You become wildly Miss West. I disagree. You become wildly Midwestern.
Yeah, well, all I know is A and I are going to regale you with stories of us meeting very famous people that we absolutely adore, their creativity and their work and their brains, and A and I being relatively incapable of forming a sentence in either English or Chinese or Mandarin, whatever you like.
Village idiots.
Village idiots. So join us for the next episode. If you have ideas for anything you'd like us to talk about in Deep Cuts, no matter when you hear this, just email that concept to info@emptyset.com. And until then, you all smell an awful lot like flowers.
Love you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. All right, you guys.
I don't turn that off, right? Oh, I just stopped this.
Yeah.
Oh, I did a good job this time.
You did.
Do I get a good boy props? Do I
You
get
do.
boy props so I didn't fuck it up? Gosh, I'm crazy about you.
So, you guys, thank you for hanging out with us. If you were watching last week, at the end of last week, Scott had not had any dinner and had 2 drinks and was a little tipsy.
I was flying.
If you looked at me, I was like, how can we actually talk about that for 30 minutes?
What I told all of you was we missed episode 69, which is a cardinal fucking sin. It just went, we didn't even notice it was coming, went right by. And I'm like, you know what we got to do? In my cups, I'm all like, you know what we got to do? We got to do episode 69, do it for George Carlin. So I get the episode 69, which I'm pissed about missing. And then I'm like, we're going to do episode 69. But it's like George Carlin says, we're going to do a 71, which is 69 with 2 fingers up your ass. And I'm like,
several times
that sounded great to me in my head.
Times.
It sounded like this is going to be gold. This will be our biggest episode ever. People are going to love it. And then Nate comes to me like 2 days ago and she's like, so episode 71, do you really want to do...
Do you want the title card to say 2 fingers in your ass? Or should we...
69 with 2 fingers up your ass? And I'm like, no, that's
not going to get news.
And I said this, I'm like, why did you come up with this idea? This is a terrible idea. What's wrong with you, idiot?
How dare.
So we did not do...
We did not do that, but
Tony
we appreciate
Hustle,
you guys.
good night. We've never seen Tony Hustle. Tony Hustle, good night to you. You guys are great. Well, I'm gonna shoot some people in video games after I finish the post.
That
You
sounds
good?
like a plan.
All right.
You guys, we have a busy October coming up. We have a few changes to the feed coming up that we will talk about once we suss them out. But the rest of 2025 is going to be exciting.
You guys are great. Love you. Good day. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Oh, wait, how were the...
Wait, you want to say something? Okay.
No.
I think he's saying, how are the analytics? And I think Michael Morris...
Oh, we did not.
Michael Moore's literally trying to say, how are the analytics?
We're not looking because we're not doing
No.
Oh, okay.
Our filter start out anal.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. We did not look, to be fair, at the analytics. However, I don't think I could.
See you, Chris.
I don't think I have the ability to be on camera and talk about 69 plus 2 for half an hour.
Good night,
I'm
Edward.
Just not built that way.
Good night, everybody. You guys are all great. We're tuning off right now.
Love you guys. See you next week.
Later. Goodbye. Goodbye.